Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Drew Del Pree.
I want to see how long I can go with just leaving his mic muted. You think, what? Sorry, I can't hear you, Lou. It's horrible.
What is he saying?
Just leaving his mic.
Uh-oh, we got some problems going on over here.
Sorry, I can't.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm discombobulated tonight. Anyway, welcome back to Nothing's Off the Table, your source of Friday night entertainment. And if this is your source, well, I feel very sorry for you. However, we do have a wonderful guest on our show tonight, Miss Libby. Welcome to the show. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do? Because if I try, I will greatly screw it up.
Well, Andy, Lou, thank you so much for having me. Yes, I'm Libby, and I'm a therapist and a certified intuitive eating coach. I have a therapy practice and a coaching practice, and I help people recover from eating disorders, disordered eating, and any kind of issues with food or body image. I myself recovered from an eating disorder I had for about 20 years, and why I'm very extremely passionate about the work that I do.
Is there some place people can go to check out what you do? Like a website?
Absolutely. Yes. So
Let's plug
website
that
is
now.
everything is just my name. So libbysupan.com is my website. Email libby@libbysupan.com. And then all my social media, which would be TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, is Food Freedom with Libby. I also have a freebie bundle I can give to you guys if you want to put it in the show notes. Or
Yeah.
Of course.
awesome.
It's so funny you talk about like eating and everything. I know it's like one of the common arguments that I have with my physician. I lost 80% of my pancreas.
Oh,
And so I got diabetes overnight, all that stuff. And they
wow.
keep telling me you can't eat these foods, you have to restrict your diet, you have to do all these things. And I keep telling them, but the pen goes up to 38. Right? I mean, why would you allow the insulin pen to go up to 38 if diet is a part of this? Like, can't I just
Yeah.
inject my way out of it? And
Right.
all they can tell me is no, that's not how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to do it that way. But they
Right.
don't really get into the other stuff on it. But I mean, I say it as a joke, but I think too, I mean, couldn't I?
You're asking me?
I mean,
It's-
Well,
it's
you
probably a
have
bad
everything
idea. I
to
mean,
do.
certainly, but
You can do whatever you want, right? Like that's your prerogative. Would I suggest or encourage you to do that? No. I believe that's called diabulimia.
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've never heard that phrase or
nope.
that term.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't do
So-
it. Okay.
What is the term again?
Diabulimia, I think. I don't, that's not something that I've worked with before, but I'm pretty sure that's the term. When you abuse insulin to get rid of the food.
Oh, I know what you're talking. You know what? I wasn't even thinking about that. You're right. That's right. People do abuse insulin, even without the issues eating. Right. So I was talking about
Yeah.
abusing insulin, to eat the fried foods and stuff because I don't regulate as much.
Right.
Which just I'll throw this out there for people. You can. I had no idea about these things until the physician told me. But apparently, my diabetes is type 3C. So most people are only familiar with 1 and 2, but I have
Yeah.
3C. So you have to look.
What's
You just
that?
have to look it up yourself and see what it says.
Okay.
I couldn't begin to explain it.
Okay.
But one thing is a lot of bodybuilders will do this, right?
That makes
Abuse the
sense. Yeah.
insulin. I believe it pulls something out of you.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you,
I'm not an
regardless
expert
of
in that.
what it's called, I mean, we're on the internet right now, so obviously it's true because we're on the internet. We said it.
I mean, it's totally facts because
Right.
everything
That's
is on
right.
the internet. Don't get me started.
You know what, Libby? While we have you here, let me ask you about something I read about Penn Jillette. So
Okay.
for our listeners, Penn from Penn and Teller, right? There's Penn Jillette, and he used to be a heavy guy, and all of a sudden he lost all this weight, and he writes a book, starts showing up on talk shows, and somebody asks him about his losing weight, and here's what he said, and I'd be interested in your thoughts. He said he had to reset his palate. And so what he did to do that was he ate boiled potatoes for, I want to say 90 days. It was at least 30. But all he did was eat boiled potatoes for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, with no additives. He said 2 things occurred when he did that. Number 1, he lost interest in eating. So he only ate when he was hungry. Because he said he also realized just how much food is thrown at him on a daily basis. He said when he was only eating boiled potatoes, here he is in the green room and there's a spread. And he's invited to this interview and there's a spread. And then there's a party and he realized he was eating at least full meals 7 times a day from all these events in his life. And from eating boiled potatoes, it made him stop, take a look around and go, holy cow, people are shoving stuff down my face every 2 minutes, or I'm shoving stuff down my face every 2 minutes because I have access to it. So I know I talked a lot, so I'm going to stop and hear your thoughts on what he talked about. The last part, before I stop, though, he did say when he did finally start to eat, he said a splash. The first thing he ate was a salad with croutons, and he put a splash of Tabasco, and he said it was an explosion of flavor in his mouth after a month of boiled potatoes.
Yeah. Interesting. What are my thoughts? Well, first of all, what I can say is, again, like I said earlier, your body is your prerogative. You get to do whatever you want. And, I am a professional in this field, but, take with what I say with a grain of salt because you know your body best. Um, yeah, here's my problem with what you just shared. Celebrities have a responsibility. This is according to Libby of what they say to the public. And that's great that worked for him long term. We don't know, right? Because it sounds like this is very recent. Um, yeah, so we don't know how long, if this is actually long lasting or sustainable, whatever it is that he's now doing. But it's really irresponsible for a celebrity to say this kind of stuff, to give this kind of information, because little Susie, who might be in 7th grade, is really just wanting to lose some weight because that's what the kids are doing. And she sees this on TV or something, and oh my gosh, that worked for him. I'm going to do that. She starts doing it and then develops an eating disorder. So I think the biggest concern I have with the diet, if you will, is many people, I'm not going to say most, so any form of intentional weight loss, a diet, is considered disordered eating. So it's absolutely disordered eating with what he was and probably still is doing. I don't know. And many people, again, not most, when you start engaging in disordered eating, and most typically it's restriction, some kind of food restriction, and usually the intention is to manipulate your body to lose weight. So biologically, when we restrict food, whether it's like variety of food or just like calories overall, we're telling our brains we are starving ourselves, but our brain doesn't know the difference. It just thinks we're starving. So after some time, it's going to hold on to food. So your metabolism slows down. It will also trigger binge urges. So I think, yeah, that sounds like a very scary kind of plan that he did with this like potato fast, if you will. Because I think a lot of people would not be able to do that for very long at all and probably start binge eating on all the things they weren't eating. I also think with what he was trying to do, like cleanse his palate, I think you can do that in many different ways with maybe a professional helping you. But again, I'm not judging him. You know what I mean? Like if it worked for him and he's happy,
Right,
props
sure.
to him. So that's my thoughts. What do you guys think?
So I'm glad you brought up the whole celebrity issue thing because the one thing, the diet, first of all, I hate the word diet.
Yeah.
We should just get rid of that. It's even saying fad diet, that's kind of it's a double negative in my opinion. They're both fads.
Yeah.
I prefer the term lifestyle change because it's really how you have to look at it. But the celebrity thing, the whole Ozempic issue right now,
God, don't get me
creating huge shortages. Now, I'm diabetic as well, so and I do use Ozempic once a week. My point is you got these celebrities out there that are taking it as a weight loss drug, and they're creating shortages for individuals that need that medication. So, man, that just you struck a chord there. But
Yeah.
secondly, I want to really get your opinion since you brought up the fact that it's truly a disordered eating pattern if you're trying to lose weight. So for many, many years, I would cut weight as a grappler. And man, it sucked so bad. I don't do it anymore. But if we knew then what we know now, man, maybe we could have really cut a lot of that out.
I know.
I don't know, and maybe avoided because, and I'm sure you will touch on this, but a big misconception is that eating disorders are commonly women, suffer from them alone. But no, that's not true. There's so many men out there that have eating disorders as well.
Absolutely. I mean, right now I have 5 male clients. I've had many male clients, and more males suffer with eating disorders that go undiagnosed because there's so much stigma around it.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's I worked at the Navy's rehab center, and it's the exact opposite with alcoholism.
Yeah.
More females go undiagnosed because males cover for them
Yeah.
and feel like
Yeah.
they don't have a drinking disorder, and they cover for them.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to touch on Ozempic. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of, in Libby's opinion, there's a lot of things wrong with this. What's happening with all of those semi-glutide, I think is that how you say it, medications?
Yes.
Not only are there now shortages for people that actually need it, people with diabetes, but now the message is, it's like our society has now taken another step back with fat phobia because we're now giving another strong message that this isn't even a diet. This is a pill you can take and you can lose weight because fat is the worst thing you can be. And now we're prescribing it to children. And I get real mad about it. So maybe we should talk about something else.
I'm going to hit one last little highlight. I don't know why anyone would want to take that because I hate it. It messes with my system, something fierce.
Yeah, tell me. What happened? Why do you hate it?
A lot of GI distress.
Yeah.
It fluctuates between either diarrhea or constipation, abdominal discomfort, nausea, for a day or two after you take it. And it just sucks. I hate it. I know I need it. But, I don't know why anyone would want to do that willingly.
I'm going to share a little story. So one of my clients, this is awful. So her physician suggested she go on Ozempic. He thought she needed to lose weight. There's no reason why she needs to lose weight. There's no health markers. This is just what the doctor says. And, doctors are supposed to know. So she says, okay, I guess. She also wants to lose weight because she lives in this fat phobic society. So, okay, great, let's do it. So she's on it for, I'm going to say 3 months. And yes, she did lose weight pretty significantly, pretty fast. But she was so sick, she couldn't go to work. She was barfing every day. She couldn't eat. So she goes back. So then she takes herself off of it. Her next appointment with the doctor, he says, okay, great, you've lost weight. Like, let's up your dose. And she says, no, I took myself off. I can't live this way. Like, I feel so sick. And he goes, no, we're going to increase your dose. You need to continue to lose weight. And I had lots to say about that.
Sounds like it's time to find another doctor.
Exactly.
Here, I'll throw you this conspiracy theory. Hey, whatever happened to the plastic heart?
Plastic heart?
Remember that?
Hmm.
Remember that in the 90s?
Good
They were
question.
replacing hearts with plastic hearts. They used to have fake plastic hearts. They used to replace that. You didn't have to have a live donor.
Hmm.
You
I
mean they
don't
would
know.
put plastic
Andy,
in my
Andy, you remember what I'm
body?
talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
yeah. They were
remember. Yeah.
artificial hearts. They were called artificial hearts,
Huh.
right? They're not around anymore. One thought is, gee, did they work too good? Did it not matter what your fat content was? Put this in, and
Hmm.
it doesn't matter.
Oh, it was supposed to manipulate your heart rate.
No,
It
no,
was
this
a
was a
heart.
heart. This was a heart. You can look it up. 60 Minutes,
Oh,
I think, even
crazy.
showed a surgery on TV back in like the early 90s, late 80s.
Okay.
Like filmed it
Wow.
where they put the plastic heart in. The point is my question is, and there's a theory on the internet, right? Is that thing disappeared because it was too good, because it was easy to replace your heart, and you could slam it with cholesterol and just put this thing in. And now that we know how to make it, now it's only $50, right? It's plastic. So anyway, there's a big thing on that.
Wow.
Like, yeah, of course that thing is gone, man. Of course we're back to donors. Of course we're back to $500,000 surgeries than a $20 plastic heart that a 3D
Huh.
printer can make.
Sir, I'm
But
going to need you to
that's
take your
conspiracy.
tinfoil hat off.
we talk about rabbit holes. I'm just saying there is a theory out there that says, hey, what
Yeah.
happened to that plastic heart? All of a sudden,
Right.
it was going to change the world. All of a sudden, it's gone, and we have more
Yeah.
drugs. We have fat phobia. We have,
Right.
diet camps and all these other things and all these pharmaceuticals, and no
I
one's
know.
even looking into developing the plastic heart. One company, I
Right.
looked it up last year. One company up in Canada is still doing it,
Hmm.
How interesting. It's everything is all about money all the time.
isn't it?
Um, it, yeah, Ozempic and these meds. So like what's happening today with this class of medications reminds me of what happened, I think it was in the 90s with fen-phen. And to me, it's why do not play with fire. We just don't have long-term studies done. Anyways, that's my piece. I've done a few podcasts on Ozempic, so very
So, do you remember, Libby? You may not remember. You might be a little bit too young, but Lou, do you remember the diet supplement AIDS? Came out in the
AIDS?
80s. Yeah, there were these little chocolate bars that had some kind of probably an amphetamine. I'm imagining.
Oh, I don't remember them. I don't remember what they're called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the AIDS epidemic hit.
My mother had them in her purse. Like
I'm
you
not
break
surprised.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the AIDS epidemic hit, and
Yeah.
well,
wow.
should have picked a better name, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yikes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I actually have heard of that. One of like somebody on TikTok, one of my followers, were asking me about it, and I was like, AIDS, what is that? So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm dating myself a little bit, but that's all right. Lou, you had a couple questions pre-show that you wanted to ask. Do you remember what they were?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I asked about
No, you had another. I'll help you. I'll throw you a little bit of bone
yeah,
here.
you got to throw me a bone,
you
man.
you had a question about coaching.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's so in your bio. How could I forget this? Because anyway, so in your bio, Libby, it mentions the coaching aspect, and I'm always curious, what gets people into coaching? Like, what makes you like we wake up one day and what's the thought or what's the journey? I guess.
Okay. So are you talking about me being a coach or if I'm a
Yes.
client wanting a coach?
Nope.
Me
I'm
being a
talking
coach.
about what made you want to coach other people.
Okay. I will tell you. So I will first say it is an unregulated industry.
Oh,
There is no governing board, which is a big problem because you can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm a coach and scam people
yeah.
because that's huge right now. So I wanted to be a coach because as a therapist, which I love being a therapist, there are so many limitations to how I can do my job. The first one is because I'm licensed in California, I can only work with people that are located in California. The other thing is there's so many laws and ethics with therapy, and I think that's great. I think a lot of them are ridiculous and very unnecessary. Um, I do not take insurance, so I'm private pay. And I'm like, why did I say that? What does that have to do with coaching? Therapy is also, it's a slow process. I don't know if either of you have been to therapy, but it's slow. It's you go for a long time usually,
I
and
made my therapist seek therapy.
okay. Okay. Um, and you start from the beginning. You start from, where did it all begin? What was your upbringing? And again, I love being a therapist. I love going to therapy as a client, which I still do. Um, but I really saw a need, and this happened in COVID because I just became a coach March 2023. Um, well, that's not true. I was certified before that, but anyways, I really have seen a need that a uh, like, not everyone who wants help has a disorder. And as a therapist, you have to diagnose. You have to have a disorder in order for us to have therapy together. So what happens, and this is what used to happen when I worked in many practices and clinics and groups, is you kind of make up a disorder. And I didn't like doing that. I felt really yucky about that. So yeah, so in therapy, you have to have a disorder. So it's like a certain kind of level of client that you work with. And as a coach, not only can I work with anyone anywhere in the world, but you don't have to have any kind of a disorder. The other difference with coaching is it's very direct. It's very like, we're going to start from today and move forward. Because I'm a therapist, I do it a little bit differently. I do go back into history, but not like I do with therapy. It's like it's very coachy, which, yeah. So yeah, it's just more directive. It's more like habits, um, accountability. What are your wins? Kind of like a kind of a daily check-in type thing. It's group. So there's so many things you can't do with therapy. So with my coaching practice, the cool thing I can do is, I don't know if you know what Voxer is. It's an app. It's basically just like a walkie-talkie type situation. It's a free app. So with my coaching clients, they have access to Voxer with me. So they could talk to me all day long, leave voice messages, leave text messages, pictures, images, whatever. So it's kind of the idea of like, I'm in your back pocket. I'm walking you through how to relearn and being an intuitive eater. So in coaching, they're less kind of severe of a client, um, less, and I'm not using needy as a bad word, but like less needy. Yeah. Does that make
Less
sense?
pathology.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're like a mentor.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I see it, is like mentoring.
So
So little off topic, but real quick question. What do you think about what they're doing to Jordan Peters? Did
I
you hear
haven't
the latest
heard.
with him?
No.
He's been ordered to go to re-education camp in Canada in order to maintain his psychology license. Because of they cited three examples. One was his comment on a Sports Illustrated model that was plus size. He said that wasn't beautiful. And then two other comments he made, but he filed an appeal, and the highest court of Canada just recently denied his appeal. So if he wants to keep his
Good.
license, he has to report to re-education.
Sounds
Wow.
like it's time to leave Canada.
I can't believe like I could understand a licensing body pulling a license or doing something like that, but forcing re-education, I'm not sure
Well,
about that.
so, okay, I don't know the story that you're talking about. So what you're saying is a licensed therapist made some kind of horrific fat phobic comment about somebody in the public, and now he has to go get his, like, to school again?
No, it's they're calling it re-education. He has to have a coach assigned to him to
Yeah.
teach him how to properly think about things and post.
So I have a different opinion than both of you. I think good,
Yeah,
especially as a therapist.
I
You
don't
shouldn't
think
even
so.
think that way.
I think I
I
understand. I know what the comment was. I can't quote it verbatim, but it was exactly what just happened here, taken completely out of context. Because if you know
Mm,
Jordan Peterson at all, that is
I
not
don't.
his character or his nature. Um,
Okay. Yeah,
he's
I
he's
he's
a
a
don't.
very
PhD psychologist, clinical psychologist from Canada. He's done the whole speaking circuit in America and around the world. He's very, very intelligent, but he doesn't follow the mainstream line of thoughts. Therefore, he's ridiculed in the media all the time.
He came to prominence in Canada when they were talking about fining people for not using pronouns, and he spoke out against that, saying that, here was the thing. This was what caused the whole problem. He never said he wouldn't use your pronouns. All he said was, if you have different pronouns, you and I can have a conversation about that. I don't think the government should be fining people for not using pronouns. If you want me to use different pronouns, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But he said, but the government shouldn't mandate that.
Yeah.
He got a lot of hate pushed on him for that, for saying that.
Huh.
But what he did was he dug in. He dug in and said, no, they should never do that. And then it turned into he hates that community hates him, but
misinterpretation.
it never really was that. And I'll tell you, I heard a great example, and this is not to get into this topic, but just somebody had really caused me to really rethink another very super politically charged issue, pro-life and pro-choice. And what they were saying was, we never should have let those labels come out, because the people who are pro-choice, they're not anti-life, they're just pro this choice. And he said, and the people who are pro-life aren't anti-choices. It's like, but we get these two labels, and and now we're stuck in these camps. And as soon as, from that argument, when I thought, oh geez, now dial it back to Peterson and this other person, I'm like, oh, they just got labeled, and now they're stuck in these camps. So now he's over here with his heels dug in, and the government's over here with their heels dug in, saying we can order you to say stuff, and he's saying no, you can't, and it's really causing a problem, and neither side is going to step back. And when I say, I think each side is causing a problem by being so stubborn.
Right. And it's like all happening in the media, so it's just, there's like a layer of ick. Yeah.
So speaking of politics, what do you like to do for fun, Libby? Because I know you...
I was like, please don't ask me about politics. Because when you said that thing, I don't even want to get into it, but I could feel my insides like enraging. So I do not want to go there. Sorry, what do I like to do for fun?
Yeah. So I just have this sense, call it my ESPN or whatever you want to call it, that... you just get tired of talking about the same old thing sometimes. So what do you want to talk about?
Thank you. Well, what do I want to talk about? I guess I'm
Time's up.
In both of
Next
you.
subject.
Oh, shoot.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I love talking about things. I don't know what I'd want to talk about right now, but I guess I'm interested in both of you. And if either of you think that I guess you kind of shared on that, Andy, about having some form of disordered eating in the past, but I guess I'm curious, like, do you think you guys have ever had disordered eating, or have you had disordered eating, and like, how is your relationship with food, and how do you do food in your households, because I think you both have kids.
Yes. So I know for me, I have recently gone to like a meal prep service, because I can't eat a lot of the stuff that my wife makes for the kids, and I am not going to force them to have to eat the unfun food or non-fun food, however you want to call it, that I have to eat. So I'm relearning. So in 2021, I retired in June. 2 months afterwards, I got COVID. I was hospitalized for it. I had a heart attack while in the hospital, and I went in basically a healthy person, and I came out as a type 2 diabetic. So I'm still learning how to eat correctly, which I don't. I'll be honest, I don't do a very good job, but I'm trying. It's been a huge learning curve, and it sucks, but just like everything else, it doesn't stop me. I just keep on driving on.
Yeah, how scary.
That was pretty scary. Well, thank you. Well, I don't know if I'm okay. That's a loaded statement right there. There are a lot of people out there that would disagree with you wholeheartedly. However,
Yeah.
To quote the documentary RoboCop, he could use the new Sport Heart by Jensen. And Yamaha.
but getting more back towards your question, since I started on the insulin and the Ozempic especially, I've noticed that my whole eating habits have not only changed, but my appetite. There are things that I used to love to eat that it almost makes me nauseous to even think about eating nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's hard because I'm a picky eater anyway. I'm not a big vegetable guy.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me to find the right things to eat and now take away that appetite or that desire from things I used to like.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and the other thing I've noticed, and this is probably within the last year and a half or so, is I will be very hungry. And I think this is associated with the Ozempic. I'll either make a meal or I'll start eating, and then I get completely sick to my stomach and lose my appetite. So
Yeah.
it's affected us to where that, we used to go out to eat at least once a week. I don't even want to go out to eat anymore because it's a waste.
Yeah. Now, I hope this is okay to ask. I'm
Oh,
curious
boy.
if since you've been on Ozempic, have you lost weight? And I know that's not why you went on it.
Oh, yeah, I've probably about 25 pounds.
Okay. So next question. You're on this medication, Ozempic. You kind of lost your flavor for food, if you will. You don't really, it doesn't sound like you enjoy it very much.
Right, not anymore, yeah.
Okay. But what came with that is 25-pound weight loss. So if you had to choose, would you continue staying on the medication with the idea that you'll keep that weight off, or would you get off of it and want to enjoy food more again?
That's not as easy to answer as you might
Yeah.
think.
If you didn't have to take the medication,
If I didn't have to take the medication, that's a no-brainer.
you would
Come off of it. Come right off of
that
it.
was my question. You got it. Yeah. Thank you.
But, the community as I've been associated with in the sports and things I've been involved with all my life, I put on some weight there towards the end of my career, but I know how to take it off and take it off safely. But I also know how to take it off not so safely. The whole cutting weight thing, oh my God, that was the worst part about that whole sport, the grappling world. I don't know if Lou, if you've ever cut. I mean, I've competed a lot. I started competing when I was 13. So it's a lot of weight cutting.
Yeah, man.
In fact, I'll share a completely unhealthy, stupid story for you, so everyone can either laugh and learn from my mistake. We were in Japan, Lou, and there was a tournament. There was a big tournament. I think it was International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation tournament, which is huge, big deal. And I was cutting for that, and man, I was so thirsty. I remember waking up. It was probably about 1:32 in the morning, so thirsty. And so I'm like, I'll get a little sip, just a little sip of Gatorade. I get out of bed, and next thing I know, I'm looking up from the floor in the living room. I had passed out. I mean, I was so dehydrated. But, just like an idiot, I got up, got a little sip, went right back to bed, and then waited till I weighed in, because the way the jiu-jitsu world does their weigh-ins, you weigh in day of tournament.
Yeah.
So it's not like you do it the night before.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, so stupid.
No, you're not stupid. The system is stupid.
I was very stupid for doing it.
But you were doing, I understand what you're saying, but you were just doing what you were told, right?
No, so here's the deal. You have control, right? People cut weight to get to a lower weight class because they know they'll be stronger at that weight class.
Right.
What I should have done is just competed at my normal walking around weight.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
I get it.
I mean, that's why I say I was stupid. But, of course, it's the system.
Right.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lou. Sorry.
No, no, I was gonna we were gonna talk about you're talking about the weight and everything. Um, both of our wives and like how do we eat at home, right? Both our wives are Asian, but different parts of Asia. So different foods, uh, completely. But my wife is first generation Japanese, right? Born in Japan. We met over
Mhm.
there. Um, and she had a kidney infection when she was younger. And in Japan, they didn't believe in steroids, right? Steroids was not a predominant treatment. So they kept her in the hospital for 6 months, right?
What?
And then, yeah, yeah, yeah. She said she would walk around with her IV. Everybody knew her, right? Japanese hospitals are different, right? They're much, much different than American hospitals. Very different.
Mm.
They still wear all white. There's visiting hours, and they don't play around with that, right? You
Okay.
don't come in there. If you're out in the rural areas, I found this very interesting when her uncle got very sick. When you look at pictures, everybody talks about Japanese universal healthcare, right? Okay, they show you pictures of Tokyo University Hospital. Okay, they don't show you the rural hospital where if you don't bring food, that patient don't eat. Okay, it's a hospital, not a kitchen. Okay,
Oh,
the
okay.
nurse has white rice, right? There's white rice going all the time. But if you want your
Hmm.
family member to have more than white rice, you need to bring that. you
Oh,
know,
what if
they're
you're
not.
like a
Yeah,
single person with no family?
you could have white
Out
rice.
of luck. Okay.
Speaking of losing weight,
But right, right, yeah, Japanese jail, you lose weight. Anyway, long story longer. Um, the doctors upon discharge told her, "Don't go over 110 pounds." Told her, and she has religiously stuck to that. Like
Wow,
she
still.
gets nerve. Yes, yeah, we're both in our mid 40s, even though she'll never admit that. But we're both in our mid 40s, and yeah, yeah, she gets like she'll tell me when she's getting close. Like I'm at 108, I'm at 109. Like I really need to, my kidneys. I mean, that has stuck with her. Like when you talk about irresponsible comments,
Yeah.
that has stuck with her. Like she's
I mean,
afraid to go over 110
has
and
she
has
gotten a
stayed.
second opinion?
Doesn't care. It doesn't matter. No, they don't do that. That
she's
in that culture, they
Japanese.
don't do that. Yeah, they don't do that.
She like
They
wouldn't,
don't.
yeah, she can't hear
Yeah,
that anyways.
yeah, that Tiger Mom stuff you see on the newspaper. That stuff happens in my
Yeah.
house every day up there. There's extra homework for my daughter on Amazon. It arrives every 2 weeks. There's, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
all that
You
stuff is
have
going
a
on. But
strict household, kind of, it sounds like.
it's very strict, but very healthy. She does cook Japanese style food. I mean, so we don't have a lot of fried food. That's very rare. A lot of vegetables, a lot of color. She's teaching my daughter you have to have color on your plate. In America, it's all
Yeah.
gray and brown. That's not good. Every color has to be there. The more color, the better. So she's talking to her about healthy eating. And and I'll tell you what, I can't say anything when she's chiming in with Japanese have the longest life. They're out there living. So
Yeah.
I've got a cool story that you will find interesting. I was actually going down the path of becoming a life coach with the emphasis on counseling.
Hmm.
And when I found out that this particular program that I was in had no path to licensure or certification, I was like, I'm out.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because like I was saying, the coaching industry is so shady.
Yeah, it was why, and it was a graduate level program. I'm like, why am I?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
This is dumb. So,
Yeah.
but going to the counseling aspect, I am a huge believer in peer to peer counseling, and I don't need a piece of paper to tell me. I mean, I have experience in the mental health arena. I've spent over 30 years in the medical field. I don't need that piece of paper to
Yeah.
listen.
Right.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Just open your ears and listen.
Yeah. I
Except
agree.
for Lou. Sometimes you got to close the ears.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think one of the best things a person can do for themselves is find community in a space where you are kind of like-minded people working on the same thing, trying to do better or get better. Like the community aspect, the group. to me, like as a client and a clinician, that's where you see the growth is when, because so often my clients, they kind of, I, they haven't ever told me this, but I know what it's like because I'm a client of therapy. Sometimes you don't want to hear what your therapist has to say. You want to hear what the other clients are doing with what she said to those clients. Like, she just said this. How are you doing it? Like, what is it like for you? So I love, yeah,
Peer-to-peer.
groups, group therapy, coaching, all of it.
That's a slippery slope, though, because it can be very dangerous when you start comparing yourself to others.
Oh, I'm not talking about that at all.
But,
No,
but I mean,
just
how do you do it? Well, just for example, Lou goes out there and he gets this great job or whatever, and then I'm sitting there struggling. How do you, Lou, do it? Well, Lou and I are two totally different people. So what worked for him doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for me. So I just say I've been down that road before, and I've been caught in that trap. So I just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and I think it's the responsibility of the facilitator, like the therapist or coach, to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen. So, yeah, there's absolutely no comparing in my groups. This is my experience. You do not give advice, and you do not like directly, speak to the person in like a suggesting kind of way. So I totally hear what you're saying, Andy.
Wow, what you said there really kind of hit home. I have a friend of mine, and her name is Patty Moeller, and she's a therapist as well. And what she says a lot of times is when you're going to listen to somebody, don't give advice unless it's solicited, because sometimes people just need to talk. So, man, that's like twice in 2 weeks now I've heard that. It must be important.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? They used to say Venetians don't need their problem solved. They just like to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something, for anyone listening, if you run into this a lot, meaning you either tend to just jump at giving advice or you tend to always get advice, here's what you can say. So if you're a person that just wants to vent and I don't want advice, I would say, Andy, do you have some time for me to just get something off my back and I'm not looking for advice?
Perfect.
Okay. Or if I'm the therapist and you come to me wanting to tell me something and you start telling me and then you've told me all this stuff and I'll say, okay, now are you looking for me to give you a response? Do you want a suggestion? Or, so yeah.
I love it. Perfect. Lou, are you awake? This is probably the quietest I've ever
I am.
heard man.
Years ago, I did counseling in the Navy. Like, I used to do drug and alcohol counseling in the Navy for a couple of years. Way too young to have that responsibility. I look back now, way too young. But it was interesting. It was interesting. One thing I learned was you definitely have to be comfortable with yourself and your issues and your problems, because when you're talking to people about theirs, the very first defense mechanism is to look right at you. And if you can't be prepared for that. So Libby, I'll share with you, as funny as I tell people that I'm going to work with on projects when we're talking, usually about the second or third day, I'll tell them, look, I live myself for 46 years. I know what I do. You could be like, Lewis, I've had enough. I don't take it personally. I'll find someone else. And I'll go, because I am comfortable in my own skin. I do know, I know I talk a lot.
Yeah.
And if you ever forget, I'm here to remind you.
Yeah. So, I know I was a horrible alcoholic. I don't have a pancreas from it. How do you deny that?
So, okay. So are you saying you were a client or you were the counselor?
No, I did it. I did drug and alcohol counseling. I was going to do it as a career in the Navy. But I had no warfare qualifications, so I had to move on. But I worked at I worked at the rehab center in Japan for a year, and then I worked at the main rehab center in Norfolk for 3 years, which is tri-service, and did drugs. I taught rational recovery.
Okay. Did you have your KDAC?
No, but I was gonna go take the exam. They were offering it in Guam, but my TAD got canceled.
Yeah.
Whatever.
TAD means TAD stands for traveling around drunk.
because they were given the certification exam, and I had orders to go, but they canceled them because they ran out of money, or I was low
Yeah.
ranking at the time.
Yeah, thanks for stepping all over my joke, pal. Appreciate it.
Sorry.
I didn't hear what you said, Andy.
It's not even worth repeating at this point.
Oh, dang
I didn't
it.
hear it either. I'm sorry.
So, Lou, do you have a segment for us for veterans or no?
I do not, sir.
Because if you don't, I got your back, and
I was hoping you would.
it's kind of pertinent to what we're talking about tonight. So we do a segment every show, and it's our Veterans Helping Veterans segment. And so we highlight an organization out there that's doing great things for our veteran community. And this will be the third time I know I've mentioned this organization. However, it's relevant.
Yes.
The Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy is an organization that is very near and dear to my heart. I belong to. In fact, I'm a board member of the organization. And what we do once a year, we put on an umpire academy for veterans, wounded veterans, whether it's physically or otherwise wounded or ill. And we teach them how to be umpires. But more importantly, we use that program as a conduit to get folks back in, to kind of reassimilate back into the civilian community, to get that sense of camaraderie again and that renewed sense of purpose by giving them a new trade that they can go back and make a little bit of money on. So during that program, that camp, it's a 10-day camp in June, we have a program that we've adopted from Marine Corps boot camp, and that's SDI time. And SDI stands for Senior Drill Instructor. So during boot camp for Marines, that senior drill instructor will take a time throughout boot camp, take off his official campaign cover, and they will have a talk with the recruits where it's a no fear environment, no fear of reprisals. They're not going to mess with you. It's a time to ask questions and get answers. So we've adopted that, but we've turned it into a peer-to-peer therapy session, and we do that throughout the entire camp. We've done it for the last 3 years now, and every critique that we've gotten back from every student has praised the SDI time. They've gotten more out of it because we're all veterans there. We all know that we've been through a lot of the same stuff, so we can lower that wall, and we can be vulnerable. And so last year I led it, and I showed vulnerability to the students first day, and I think that was the key. And we saved probably 2-3 lives this last year. So, Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, and it's www.woundedwarriorua.org. Go check them out. Support if you can. If you're a veteran out there, I tell you what, you can't find a better organization, because what we do is that whole 10-day camp, we pay for your airfare, we pay for your hotel, your meals. You get all brand spanking new umpire gear given to you. And we also assist in finding you a location in your local community to umpire. So check them out, please. All right. Wow, I feel like that was a paid advertisement or something,
Well, it's a good organization. I don't mind pushing it. Yeah.
And you know what? I'll go ahead and say it. They saved my life.
Yeah. Did you say Lou saved your life?
The organization did.
Yeah.
Lou makes me want to take my life.
Don't say that.
Andy knew me in my drinking days.
Well, to be fair, those were my drinking days too. So
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't saving anybody's life. I was barely hanging on to mine.
Right. How long you guys have been friends,
Well, that's a great thing about the military. Lou and I could go literally 10 years without seeing each other or talking to each other, run into each other, and pick up right where we left off.
That's great.
Hey, remember
That's
that time
a
it
real
sucked?
What'd you say?
Right. I said, hey, like when we pick right back up. Remember that time it sucked? Which one?
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to be a little more specific.
Yeah. You know what's funny, Libby? Let me tell you this. I joined. My parents asked me if I wanted to go to a military school for high school. I said yes. I don't know if they're being polite asking, and I was going anyway because I agreed.
Right.
So I don't know. But anyway, I did, and I had fun, and I loved it. But I said, this is not for me. I'm going to join the Navy. this has got to be great, right? Because it's a ship, right? I mean, my bed can't be that far from where I work. It can't be that far to the shower. It can't be that far to the eat, right? Like I'll join the Navy because I don't know shit about the Navy. Never saw a ship. I said, I'm not going to be in the dirt. The dirt sucks. Immediately to the dirt for 10 straight years. I was like,
Wow.
what? And then the
That's
Marines used to be
awesome.
like, so Doc, what made you become a corpsman? And I'd just sit there and I'd be like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I'm questioning everything right now. I do not know.
Right. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap this up a little bit early tonight because I know you have another engagement, Miss Libby, that you have to take care of. So
It's a pleasure talking.
Wow.
To you. Thank you.
Yes,
It was
thank
fun.
you so much.
so
You guys are great.
we'll end it here real quick, and then don't bounce out. We'll talk to you in the post show. But everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in. And I see we had a couple comments, but for whatever reason they didn't post. It's Carl Newport, so it's nobody important. But anyway, thanks everybody, and we will see you guys next time.
See you next week. Comment, click, like, down below.